Well, welcome back to Strongman Personal Finance. I just finished a great roast of everything money. And now we're going to turn to a more sober topic, the economy of Greece. Now, in this video, which is a sponsored video, somebody paid me for this, I'm going to do horrible analysis of the Greek economy. That's right. This person emailed me. They paid me mega money, and you can too. And in return, they said, hey, I'll pay you, and you get to look at the Greek economy and tell me your thoughts about the long-term economic prospects of Greece. Now, he also asked me about the four big banks of Greece. Basically, there's four big banks. I don't really know anything about those banks. I have no idea how to analyze those banks. It's all in foreign language. I ain't doing it. But I can definitely give you my thoughts on the Greek economy. Now, if y'all remember in like the 2000s, the 2010s, and was it the 2020s? Back in the 2010s, the Greek economy was absolute disaster. Okay, they had a massive debt problem. They were spending way too much money on government benefits. They're basically a bunch of stinky communists. And their economy started to implode because of the massive budget deficits and the massive amounts of debt that Greece had built up. And basically the European Union, they had to come in there and bail out Greece to prevent like a financial contagion from taking down all of Europe. And this is actually a big reason that the European economies haven't done too well. They've had a lot of issues with the EU and the Euro. And basically, Southern Europe is poor and Northern Europe is rich. And Northern Europe keeps bailing out Southern Europe. And there's a lot of countries that have issues in Southern Europe, including Greece. But Greece was one of those dominoes that almost fell and almost took down the EU. But they got bailed out. They got put under austerity, and they eventually got it under control. Now we're in a little bit different scenario. Okay, so instead of being an absolute catastrophe, Greece is actually starting to improve itself a little bit. So first of all, we have the economic forecast that I found for Greece. I don't know how reliable this is, but I found this economic forecast. So what they're saying is Greece's real GDP is estimated to have grown by 2.2% in 2023. So GDP is actually growing, real GDP, not inflation, because GDP can go up. You know, the aggregate spending in an economy can go up just because of inflation, because of the money supply, but the actual underlying economy doesn't necessarily have to grow. With Greece, they actually had real GDP growth in 2023 of 2.2%. That's not bad. 2.3 is projected for 2024 and 2.3 for 2025. Inflation ain't that crazy either. They had 4.2% in 2023, 2.7 projected for 2024, and 2 for 2025. These are real numbers that are projected, that have already happened or are projected. That's pretty good, okay? For a country that's almost destroyed the EU, it's actually growing a little bit. That's a good thing. And these aren't small numbers. When you look at like advanced developed economies, 2-3%, that's pretty good, okay? At least they don't have negative GDP growth. So their economic prospects, at least from a GDP perspective in the short term, are good. Let's look at some of their government debt. Here is how insane Greece was. This is Greece's government debt as a percentage of gross domestic product from December 1999 to June 2023. So we could see, well, it says it's over that time period, but let me see. Can we go back? Let's see how far back we can go. Basically, Greece had a lot of government debt problems. Let's see if we can pull it up here. Look at this. From 2013 all the way to about 2021, they had massive debt. Now, a big reason I think this went up, the debt to GDP in 2020, is because their GDP probably collapsed during the pandemic. But there was also a problem back here in the early 2010s. And you can see it's been hovering between 160 and 190% of GDP. That's a pretty heavy debt load. I think the United States has like 100% or like 103% to compare it. And then the biggest one is Japan, which has like 200-something% debt to GDP. But basically, the more debt that you have relative to your national income, the more of an overhang it is on your economy. Because if your government's borrowing money, it's got to pay interest. That costs money, okay? And that gets sucked out of the economy and it gets sent elsewhere. So the more debt to GDP, the more this graph goes up, the badder it is. But we could see it's coming down, probably because their economy reopened. We had the lockdowns. Now their economy's reopened. We can see that it's come down massively, and it's actually below the last couple of years. So their debt to GDP is getting better, but it's still pretty significant. It's still roughly 175%, 160% of GDP. What does it say? 166% of GDP. That's still pretty significant, okay? If we look at their government surplus, deficit and surplus, you can see that their government had massive deficits. Massive deficits. Look during the Great Recession and look after the Great Recession. The government was just spending tons of money. They were borrowing money and they were spending more than they made. Kind of sounds like the USA, doesn't it? Now, this goes back to 2014, but this is all I could find. But basically, they've got their government finances under control. They're starting to get more control, and they're actually, I think they're turning some surpluses, which is a good thing, because when you have government surplus, you can pay off debt. Now, those are some bright spots. So we can see their real GDP, their economy's growing. We can see that their debt as a percentage of GDP is actually starting to come down a little bit. And this is as of June 2023. They probably improved it a little bit. It's getting better. And we can see that, well, this doesn't really go back. This doesn't show us enough. But their debt or their government deficits have been reduced. That's good for the short term. What do I think about the long term of Greece? Well, Greece is a very tiny country. So if you just look at it from a demographic perspective, right now their population is about 10.3 million people. 10.3 million. They have very low birth rates, and their population is projected to decline over the next century. It's going to decline pretty significantly. As a matter of fact, I think they're saying it's going to decline all the way down to 6.3 million. So from 10 million to 6.3 million, their population is going to drop by 40%. 40%. That's pretty significant. On top of that, their demographic structure, they have a lot of older people and not a lot of younger people. Now, if you're a massive country, you're a huge country, you could still have a massive outsized impact on the world. When you got 10 million people, every person, I think, counts. That's just my opinion, okay? And this country is already in massive debt. So they have a horrible demographic situation, and they have massive debt to GDP. It's improving, but it's still pretty bad, okay? On top of that, their birth rates are very low. So basically, to maintain a population, each woman needs to have 2.1 kids. Pretty much all of the world, except for Africa, the Middle East, basically, has birth rates below the replacement level of 2.1. Greece's is pretty freaking low. Okay, 1.34 is very small. Very, very small. I think that means your population will fall by, 30% per generation? That's a pretty big collapse. Every generation it gets 30% smaller, 30% smaller, 30% smaller. Okay, so long run, I think, Greece maybe isn't in a good position if you really think about the long run. Now, who knows what the future holds? Maybe we have a AI, my hot guy, and that solves all our problems. But in the short term, if you look at it just from like a demographics perspective, it doesn't look very good for Greece. On the plus side, Greece has one thing going for it: history. As a matter of fact, I've been to Greece. That's right. I went to Athens. I went to Athens in 2017. This is back when I lived in Germanistan. I went to Athens with my lovely ex and her mother. Ugh. Don't even want to talk about that. But I went to Greece, went to Athens, and it was kind of a dump. Like, I got to see all the sights in Athens, and it was really cool. We basically walked the streets every day, took the subway, blah, 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 blah. It was a really interesting place. I saw the Parthenon. I lost all the freaking pictures, but I don't know where the pictures are. But they had a huge migration problem, and there were like big parts of Athens that were dangerous. Like, you could not go there. There was graffiti everywhere. There was these huge migrant populations. They had Greek police in these massive buses that were just sitting around waiting to put down riots of all the migrants. And we actually, when we were walking home one day, we went through a wrong neighborhood, and it was freaking terrifying because I thought we were about to get jumped. But we made it out. So Greece, they got a migration problem. They got population problems. They have a huge government debt problem. That's a big deal, okay? But at least in the short term, it seems like there's some bright points. I'm not an expert economist. I don't know Okay. At least Greece has tourism, and people are always going to go visit Greece. And I don't think the country is going to collapse, but I don't think it's going to be like this massive engine of growth for the future. Let's see. All right, we'll do some comments. A dinosaur screaming. You've been real quiet since Brooklyn hammered you. Oh, yeah, he destroyed me, bro. He's crushed me so bad I can't respond. Time to buy the Greece, Turkey, Zimbabwe, Argentina, Venezuela ETF. Inflation. I mean, hey, you own them all in VT. I think the Greek, let's look at Greek stock. I think they have done pretty well. Funny enough. Greek ETF. What is it called? Grek ETF. Let's see how the Greek ETF is. I think it's done well recently. Yeah, here, let's look at this. You're going to be surprised. Look, you're going to be surprised how well this has done over the last 5 years. It's up 72%. That's not that bad. In the last year, it's up 33%. Year to date, it's up 10%. I mean, just because it's a long-term, not maybe a bad country, doesn't mean you can't make money on the stoinks. Total world, baby. Can't predict the future. Just watch your small Gabrielix reminder. He didn't just underperform. He likely had a net negative return in a raging bull market. That's not even 8 pillars, dude. That's just clownery. Greece should make their own crypto and raise 20 billion. Dude, I bet you they would be able to pay off all of their debt if they convince a bunch of idiots to buy their crypto. Oh, yeah. Greco Maeko. What would they call their token? Sup, broski. Finally caught one of these. Picking any single country to go all in is gambling. Well, this wasn't a question about investing in Greece. The guy just asked me about the Greek economy, so I gave my best shot. Okay. I mean, I think Greece has to be in VT. But no, I would not put all your money in Greece. Will Trucker Doug vacation in Greece one day? Make more videos with your spouse. The interaction was cool. I don't got time for women. Dude, bro. Greek ETF outperformed VT. It did. I should have went all in Greek. I've been to Greece. It's trash woke. But no obese women like over here in the States. Dude, Athens was a dump. Like, it blew my mind how bad it was. Like, you would walk through these, like, dirty, nasty streets. Graffiti. It's like a war zone. And then all of a sudden, like, the next street over would be, like, this nice touristy, like, street. And all the tourists would be there, drinking their beer and having a good time. And it was, like, such a juxtaposition. It was weird. But this was back in 2017. It's been a while. Jamaica has some of that over as well. Lots of places patrolled by. Yeah. I mean, you can get messed up in Greece. You got to be careful. What do you feel about people investing in the industry? I think you should own everything, bro. Asian and Muslim countries are the few to have truly feminist, non-trash women. Yeah, I guess. But here we are, stuck in the States. Some few South American countries, too. Gil and Strongman, Red Pill collab. Red Pill cheeks, bro. All right, well, that's a sponsor video. If you want a sponsor video, you send me $50, and I will make a video talking about whatever topic you want. As long as it's not totally degenerate. Jamaica's nice, but the girls there will most likely rob you. Yeah, I'll stay in the States, okay, guys? All right, have a wonderful night. Cheers.